RFK Jr.'s brainworm has apparently come up with a new explanation as to why measles continues to sweep across West Texas. Turns out, according to him, there are some aborted fetal tissue in the jabs, and that's why people are not getting vaccinated. Here he is at a Newsnation town hall.
Now, there are populations in our country, like the Mennonites in Texas, who are most afflicted, and they have religious objections to the vaccination because the MMR vaccine contains a lot of aborted fetus debris and DNA particles. So they don't want to take it. So we ought to be able to take care of those populations when they get sick.
Okay, so first of all, there's no treatment for measles. Okay, so you can't really take care of them when they get sick. But let's get to the more important thing here and point out the fact that he is lying. There is no vaccines that contained aborted fetuses, fetal cells, fetal DNA, or fetal debris. There is no credible study that could ever prove that. It's just not true. It's a lie, and it's a dangerous one at that. And why is it dangerous? Because people believe it and have decided, no, we're not going to vaccinate. Okay? And the result of that is the fact that 880 cases, at least, of measles have been reported nationwide since February, including more than 660 in Texas, according to the Associated Press. Yeah. 2 unvaccinated kids and 1 unvaccinated adult have already died from measles. These deaths could have been prevented through vaccination, but thanks to people like RFK Jr., you got those groups of people that are not vaccinating at the level that they should in order to promote herd immunity. Okay, you need at least, 95%, I believe, 95, 96%, in order to protect against measles. I might be off on that. It could be up to a 98%. But you need that many people vaccinated to prevent measles from getting around because it's extremely contagious. So that's a huge, huge problem. But look, where is he getting this conspiracy theory? Well, for one, he doesn't know how vaccines even work. He doesn't know how they're made. And I get that a lot of people also don't. So I'm a little bit more forgiving if the average person is like, I'm not entirely sure how vaccines work. All right, I get it. But for RFK Jr., this man and the worm that drives him, okay, driving the meat suit, they're literally in charge of the federal agencies that regulate vaccines. So, you would think that maybe he would actually know how they do these things. But they don't. And, well, let me tell you how the MMR vaccine works, okay? And this is true to the majority of vaccines, okay? Basically, it just introduces a weakened version of the viruses that cause measles, mumps, and rubella into the body. All right. Now, the weakened viruses end up provoking a strong immune response. Now, that immune response actually protects against the more severe non-weakened forms of the disease, and it teaches your body ways to fight it. Okay, that's it. Now, in order to produce this vaccine, the manufacturer has to obviously grow the weakened viruses. Now, like all viruses, those weakened viruses do need human cells to grow. Now, in the process of growing, the viruses kill those cells. Scientists then purify the virus to remove debris, growth reagents, and anything that shouldn't be in there. The purification removes unnecessary components that could trigger any immune responses. None of this involves fetal debris. That said, with every conspiracy theory, pretty much all of them contain at least a little bit of a crumb of truth, which makes it easier to swallow the lies that are around it. So then, where does this crumb of truth, where does that come from? Well, look, most cells divide a finite number of times and then die. Okay, they've got a shelf life. Now, That said, in 1951, researchers at Johns Hopkins Medical in Baltimore created the first immortal cell line, HeLa, using cervical cancer cells from a 30-year-old woman named Henrietta Lacks. Now, the reason that they call it a immortal cell line is that the cells are able to continuously divide indefinitely, which provides an abundant supply of cells for medical research. Okay, that's cool. Now, that cell line, by the way, has led to countless medical breakthroughs, including the polio vaccine. Kind of important. Now, that cell line exists still to this day. But there's a bit of a ship of Theseus situation going on here. The cervical tumor tissue and Lacks' original cells are long dead. Okay, long gone. The cells exist. I mean, yes, the cell line exists, but not the original. So it's just copies of copies of copies of copies of copies. Okay, so, but what does this have to do with aborted fetal tissue? Well, back in the 60s and 70s, scientists used cells from aborted and miscarried fetuses to create other immortal cell lines, according to the journal Public Discourse. The MMR vaccine and some COVID-19 vaccines were developed using an immortalized cell line called HEK 293, according to the journal Vaccine, while J&J vaccine used a later cell line called PER.C6 from the 1990s. So research uses these immortal cell lines that continuously divide in order to grow their weakened viruses that they used to put in these vaccines. Okay, so there you go. Now, the cells are called fetal derived because they are descended from the original fetal cells. But like the HeLa cells, vaccine developers do not use any original fetal cells or fetal tissue. Vaccines that make use of the cell line to propagate the weakened viruses do not actually contain the cells themselves or even pieces of their DNA. And of course, this is because the weakened virus kills the host cells. And then you also have the purification process that is involved that cleans all that stuff out. Okay? Which means all of the claims that Kennedy was making there, that the MMR vaccine contains fetal debris, is kind of equivalent of saying, oh yeah, well, the polio vaccine has cervical cancer debris. But it's not true. It's a gross misstatement. It's a simplification, gross simplification of the process here that has actually saved millions of people's lives. Without vaccines, millions more would be dead. This is a great example of how ignorance kills. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.